Hello friends, Sarah here from the Centre for Mental Health, and I hope everybody is doing well. This week we thought we would talk about student mental health. It's that time of year when students all around the country are leaving home for the first time to go to university, and we thought it would be a good opportunity to start talking about mental health and well-being. If you've been reading about student mental health in the press, you might feel quite worried about it. And so today we hope to give you some information that you might find useful. I went to university a very, very long time ago, but I do remember it. I had a particularly interesting start the night before I was due to start university or leave my home. My dad was driving me. Our car was broken into and all my things were stolen. So I started uni with little, but I was lucky enough to be living in student halls and very quickly made friends. What I would say is, though, I remember the anxiety. I remember the daunting kind of feeling of apprehension, not knowing who I was going to meet, where my place that I was staying would really look like or feel like. I came from a loving family and very well established friendship network. So it was a really, really scary time. And I certainly know that I, like many of the people that I met at university, really struggled to work out what to do, how to do it, how to do uni well. What we do know is that about 50% of young people go to university or higher education. And often this is the first time that they're leaving home or going into kind of any independent type living situation. And that transition can be incredibly difficult. Thinking about how to establish your own day-to-day routine, balancing the needs of work, managing friendships, developing new relationships, understanding the kind of financial dynamic that you are now in. All of those things are quite heavy, and all of those things are not always straightforward and can be challenging. For instance, if you're moving into a shared accommodation, negotiating living with other people isn't always easy, and I think all of us can agree and understand why. Negotiating the pressure of university exams or work, or managing timetables, understanding where everything goes and how it works, all of those things aren't straightforward. But sadly, we don't always give the students who are landing at university the tools to deal with all of these challenges. Sometimes they just don't have the resources. So anxiety and depression and stress, all of these are quite common. Certainly we know that about a third of people in higher education report some form of psychological distress. Some of that can be quite serious. We know that self-harm is on the rise, and we know that sadly students do take their own lives. So what can we do? And I think this is the important bit. What can we do? There are a huge number of resources out there now that we can all access, parents, students alike. And I think that we need to give people the resources to help themselves, but also know how to access help when things are really difficult. So the kind of first stage would be to kind of really make sure that we know that people are okay. So are we checking in on each other? Are parents hearing and listening to their kids who have gone off? Are we, in our new kind of relationships with people, paying attention to how they're feeling and listening? Do we know when our next door neighbour is in our shared accommodation isn't feeling well? And what would we do even if we thought that they weren't well at all? Well, I think it's about establishing some understanding. So obviously we want people to have compassionate conversations. How are we doing? How are you? Do you need help? Do you need to talk? Are you worried or anxious? When we think that somebody needs help, we need to think about what can we do. So there are lots of online resources. Student Minds is an extraordinary organisation set up to support students all around the UK. And they have successfully provided a huge amount of information on their website, but also developing peer support around the country. So do look at their website to find out if there's something going on near you. Of course, it's hard for students to access help. Often they're living in between cities. They may not have registered with a local GP. There are all of these difficult things to negotiate. But ultimately, students can find information from their welfare office, and Student Minds organisation also provides information about how to access help through the NHS or through your local GP. We also need to kind of point people in the direction of Local Minds and other mental health resources in your new local area that might be able to provide peer support or access to talking therapies, and certainly support for managing the transition. Do have a look. I also kind of want to make a kind of plea for people to think about online support self-help services. So there are things out there, Beating the Blues, Fear Fighter and Mood Gym. All of these are free online cognitive behaviour therapy courses that people can access to help them develop, you know, better ways of managing sleep, anxiety, intrusive thoughts, all of those things. We'll provide some of those when with the caption for this film. And for parents, Student Minds also provides information for parents, as does Young Minds. And again, if you're worried about your child, don't hesitate to look for help. It's not inevitable that your child or you, when going to university, will find it difficult. For many, it's a joyful, wonderful experience. But if it isn't, help is there. Have a good week. See you next time.